Coming up on the next episode of Zuzu All Grown Up.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
You're now listening to Zuzu All Grown Up.
She's been featured in more than 20 films from the early days of film and television.
He is a psychotherapist and her loving husband.
Together, they are on a mission to brighten your day and your life.
It's a time to smile, a time to laugh, a time to expect more.
It's time to get inspired with your hosts, Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
It's time to meet Zuzu, all grown up.
In this special episode of Zuzu, All Grown Up, and throughout this season, we'll honor Dr. Leo Buscaglia, affectionately known as the Hug Doctor, by exploring his profound teachings on love, self-acceptance, and positive connection. As we commemorate what would have been his 100th birthday, we'll delve into the impact his legacy continues to have on countless lives. Join us today for some of the poignant stories and reflections from those who were influenced by his work and share in his mission to spread love and hugs to the world. That's today on this very special edition of Zuzu, All Grown Up.
Joining us live in just a moment, we have Dr. Heather Browne, who will be talking to us about what if we had not hindsight, but hindsight.
Dr. Heather Browne will be joining us, and we will talk about needing a family of love.
Get ready for miracles. Get ready for Zuzu. All grown up.
Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Zuzu, All Grown Up. Dr. Heather Browne is with us live right now. She'll tell us about how she met Dr. Leo when she was only 16 years old. At the same time, she was dealing with family trauma and how those experiences led her to dedicate her life to help others. Karolyn, Dr. Chris, Dr. Browne, welcome to the show. We're listening.
Well, today we're very fortunate to be joined in our messages for people by Dr. Heather Browne. And she is a psychotherapist. She's an award-winning poet, and she's an author. She's done so many things, and she has the most beautiful personality. And she's full of energy that's all positive. And I feel already better before we've even started interviewing with her. So
do I. We are all blessed.
She's a beauty.
Thank you.
So welcome to our show. It's down to earth, and we hope that people can learn some things from this show today. And thank you for joining us.
We are looking forward to having your messages affect our listeners.
So you needed a change in life at the age of 16. You realized that things weren't just like everybody else's life. You were different in a way. And you want to share just shortly the history that you kind of dealt with and taking you to your path to Dr. Leo?
Sure. My mom was a paranoid schizophrenic and really, really troubled. And when I was 16, she killed herself. And my family just fell apart. It was my dad, my sister, and myself. And both my dad and my sister's response was, she's dead. We've got to go on with our life. I didn't know what to do. So I was just a mess. And a friend's mom had me over every Wednesday night for dinner. This beautiful Italian. I didn't even think of that. Anita, she was Italian. Italian dinner. And she would drive me home. She wouldn't let my friend come in the car. And she'd pull up the driveway and she'd say, "How are you doing?" And every week, being the good little diligent girl, I said, "I'm okay." And then on the fourth Wednesday, I fell apart. And she was this perfectly meticulous little woman. And I had snot everywhere and tears everywhere. And she just held me. And she said, "What do you need?" And I said, "I need a family." And she said, "You have one." And I said, "I don't need mine." And so I went to church and I went to the bookstore because I've always loved education. And I went through the self-help book and looked at book after book after book after book. And I saw love. And I'm like, that is what I need. And I had never heard of Leo, but I remember holding onto that little red book and I was reading it. And I remember skimming through and seeing him talking about hugs and hugging and how we all need hugs. And I knew that was the book for me to have. My childhood was pretty tormented. When I was 3, my parents had a huge fight and my sister and I barricaded ourselves in the room from my mom and dad because they were so volatile. And I remember my sister saying to me, "No one's coming for you," without any malice, but just the truth. And I threw myself on my little bed at 3 and sobbed to sleep, desperately wanting to be hugged. And my whole life I wanted to be hugged. So when I read Leo's book and he talked about how we need to hug people and how we need to be concerned about the extended family, he was just speaking to my soul. I'm like, here I am. You wrote the book for me. And I fell madly in love with him. And his stories were so deep and so powerful. And he was so human. And it was okay to make mistakes. And it was okay to be scared. And it was okay to be lonely. And we all just want to love on each other and hug each other. And I just thought, oh, you are glorious. And so then I just started passionately reading everything I could find of him. And I don't think I've ever fallen in love with an author before that moment. But I literally fell in love with him just reading his books, thinking, you are the most incredibly kind, loving, good person. He's just a good person that our world needed way back then. And still, 50 years later, we need him so much now. We need his knowledge so much now. Yeah, he's timeless.
But yeah, and I think his messages is timeless. It's something that we will always need, especially in these. Well, it seems like these are the times that we live in seem to be very trying. They always are, but love is a way to help us all get through it together. We are very excited to learn more about how this book that you've written is connected with Leo Buscaglia.
Yes.
Why did it stand out to you? I'm talking about Leo Buscaglia's book, Love, and how it impacted you. Now, how did Leo's quote, "Select love, bring it with you, risk humor," resonate with you?
I think that's everything. He gives us permission. Not that we need it, but I think I felt like I needed it. He gave me permission to say, it's okay to want to be loved. And it's okay to ask for it. And it is risky. And that's okay, because sometimes you're going to get it and sometimes you're not. But if you don't ask, you're never going to have it. And it's so important for us to be able to live a life where we enjoy our life and we enjoy the people that we're with and that we care about that situation. My freshman year in college, there was a girl named Susan. I'm so sorry, Susan, for what I did to you, but I'm grateful for what you did for me. We weren't friends. She came to me one night on the dorm room floor and she said, "What is it like being perfect?"
Oh, gosh.
And I said, "What?" And she said, "You're really intelligent. You were chosen out of the whole school for a lead, which you weren't even supposed to be able to audition for your freshman year. You're really beautiful, and everyone really likes you. You're like Barbie." And I looked at her and I said, I am disowned. I don't even know where I'm going for Thanksgiving because I have nowhere to go. My mother killed herself. I was molested by my father. I am so far from being perfect. And I saw her whole face kind of contort, and I fell apart, just started sobbing. And I realized, poor Susan, but I realized I am such a good actress. I'm going to go through the world feeling alone if I don't change this up. And so my brain instantaneously went back to Leo. And I'm like, I'm not being authentic. I'm not risking. I'm being so careful, so protective, so perfect looking that no one even knows who the hell I am. And what I so admire about Leo is it didn't really matter who he was. What mattered is what he gave to others. And what mattered to Leo is who were they? There was in one of his books, I'm not sure which one, but he talked about one of his classrooms, his love classrooms. And there was a student who didn't show up for a while. And he asked around and no one knew her name. She'd killed herself.
Oh my goodness.
And it hurt him deeply, deeply. And he spoke about it, about how no one knew who she was and what her name was and what her life was. And I remembered that and I thought, okay, I'm not quite in the same place, but not that far from. Am I really connecting with people? Am I really letting people know who I am? And am I going to be willing to be so human to say, I am such a mess. I'm all sloppy. And will you help me like figure out how to do this life better? Because I'm not doing it all that well. And I want to be better at it. Can I learn from you? What Leo did for me, he's done so much for me. But one of the things he did for me is he helped me take away that belief that I had to be okay and that I had to be okay on my own. He helped me realize, oh no, I can be a total mess or I can be amazing. But my life is not that significant if I'm not being impacted by other people. And I can have a real strong message of what I want to bring. And I can have all sorts of great things that I do. But if I don't keep myself open to find out from more, to explore from more, to learn from more, my message isn't going to be as great as it can be, because my message is better because of every other person in the world, because then I'm embracing a little bit more. And the more and more and more and more and more people I embrace, the more I'm able to love everyone and the more everyone is able to love me. And so instead of looking at myself as being different or separate, Leo really helped me realize, oh no, we're all one. And we're just pretending we're okay. We're just pretending we don't need other people. And he was really good at not doing that. He was really good at saying, you're important to me. In his lectures, he would thank the people of the audience for all that they had taught him. And he loved teaching his love class because he would go and learn from all his students. And when we go back to that place of, I am here to learn from you, oh my gosh, life is so different. I want to wake up. Who do I get to see today? Who do I get to meet today? Who do I get to hug today? And all of that energy is Leo. That's what he shares everywhere. Every single person's important. Every moment's important. How much are you going to let yourself live? Are you really going to let yourself live? And he found such simple pleasure in tortellini, you know? Leaves. People used to send him boxes and boxes of leaves, and he'd roll around in them and then hand them out to the class. He said something that was so beautiful. Some nuns had sent him leaves, and someone asked at one of his lectures, did he still have them? And he said, oh no. And I went, uh-oh, the nuns' leaves, he's giving them away. And then he said, I scattered them all over my yard because they were to decompose and take care of the earth. And I went, oh my gosh, that's what we as humans are to do, to scatter ourselves all over the world and let that then help heal the world and heal the souls and be part of what comes next. And to me, that's what he taught, that we are here to be impacted by everybody. Well, I'm a widow. When my husband died, I had to stand up and give a talk for my children. It was just very important. And everyone's saying, oh, Heather, don't. And I'm like, oh, no, I have to. There were 700 people at his funeral. And one of the things I said was, my husband impacted all of you. And that's why you're here. And isn't that beautiful? That in a life, when we impact another, you leave an imprint. You truly are impacted by someone, they leave an imprint. And even when one person steps away or passes on, you've been imprinted with that person. And so what I told everybody is, so your face has already been seen by the eyes of God. And I hope that's important to you. But my husband brought that at those beautiful gates. And I said, but I also hope this, and this is Leo also. If people held on to that imprint, then my husband continues in this world forever. And that is what Leo did to me. Leo imprinted into my heart and into my soul. And so with every client I sit with, Leo is sitting there with me. And when I'm getting all botched in my head, he's like, oh, woman, make this easy. Just love on them. Just love on them. And I'm like, right. Throw away that doctorate. Throw away those 27 hours. Like, just love on them. Be human. Be with them. And so that's why I had to write my book, Speaking with the Heart, because that's what Leo does. He speaks with the heart. And our hearts are hungry. And his pasta sauce is the best.
What a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Well, what led you to contact the Leo Foundation on Facebook?
This is one of those moments. And the woman who reached out to me, she said, Leo wanted me to find you. So I was so thrilled. So as an author, and I, I'm unknown in the world for the most part. I mean, I've got my little social media following, but I'm not any big name. So you send your book out to people that you would hope, Oprah, Deepak Chopra, Dr. Joe Dispenza, Brene Browne. I've sent it out to many, many people. Leo's passed on. And I believe he's already read my book, but like, where was I going to send it? And then one day I thought, well, why don't you just send it to his organization? I thought, oh, that's lovely. So I reached out to them and I said, I read his book 44 years ago and it impacted me hugely, just touched my heart. And it has taken me 44 years to write my own book, but it's largely based upon love and loving your partner and loving your partner in communication and loving your partner in a relationship and how to grow that and shape that and change that and mold that and have it just be really beautiful and healing. And I said, Leo would have loved my book. And I wish I could have given it to him. And the organization said, we'd love to read it. And there's some people on the board who knew him. And I went, what? People who knew Leo are going to be touching my book? Like, really? Yes. So I sent it to them. And within an hour, they said, we are so glad to receive this and we will share. And it was the most beautiful, beautiful email. I have not yet heard back from Oprah. And I have not yet heard back from Brene Browne or Deepak Chopra or the Dalai Lama. I will. Reach out to me, guys. But Leo's was the first that responded, which of course it was, because that's what he teaches. There's always room for you. He answered every letter written to him. It might take him 6 months, but he answered every letter personally. So of course his organization lives that. So it was such a beautiful letter. I put it out on Facebook and I said, you won't believe this gorgeous letter I just received from the Leo Foundation. And I am so honored. And I hashtagged Leo Buscaglia. Didn't really understand the importance of hashtags, but boy, are they important. And so it then put it into this Facebook group on Facebook. And Holly, the woman who reached out to me, is working on the documentary, and she went to Facebook. She said she never goes to Facebook, but she went to Facebook. There's my post, because I'd just done it like the day before. She went to my website. She saw my TEDx, which is about compassion. She read a whole lot of my blogs, which is all about compassion. And she called me and she said, I'm supposed to talk with you. I said, okay. She said, Leo wanted me to find you. I'm like, oh my gosh. And she said, would you be interested in sharing your connection with Leo? And then she asked me all these great questions, like, okay, so when did you work with him? I'm like, oh no, I didn't. When were you in his classes? Oh no, I wasn't. Well, what seminars did you go to? Oh no, I didn't. And she's like, how did he impact you so much? I'm like, his book. Like, it just touched my soul. And she said, oh, this is beautiful. And so she said, Leo wanted me to find you. And I'm like, oh God, I love that man. And so here I am. And so honored to be here to celebrate this man who lives on in my soul, lives on in my book, lives on in my practice. But boy, I hope the people who watch this just let themselves soak in the beauty of his knowledge and his wisdom, because he could have been 5,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, today. Hopefully, more and more and more and more of what he shares will be spread. And obviously this documentary is for that as well. It's so important. We're here for such a short period of time, but we can give so much, and we can enjoy so much, and we can touch people's lives in such beautiful ways if we're willing to risk, if we're willing to say, hey, do you want to love me? Because I will love you. He did a talk where a woman said she wanted to be friends. And he said, if I lived here, we would be. We'd be the best of friends. And that's just the way he was. And I love that. There's more room for everyone. I think he had 6 biological siblings, and there were 11 children that lived in their house, because they just brought in more and more and more people. Anybody who needed just was embraced. And to me, that's the message of God. Everyone has needs. Let's embrace you all. Let's love you all. It doesn't matter if you're biological or not. Let me just love you, because you're hungry. Let me feed you. You're thirsty. Let me give you drink. He talks a lot about how, yes, it's fine to have of your own, but are you caring about others? And this is something that I find fascinating. I think in this day and age, we're more aware of than he was. And I think it's just simply the years passing on. But our world now tends to try to end challenges, end world hunger. Leo did the opposite. Leo fed the hungry. And that is the answer. The answer is being the answer, not pointing out and talking about and being angry about and being frustrated about the problem. Leo was the answer. Let me give you a hug. Come sit with me. Do you want a leaf? Like, he just gave and gave so freely and so beautifully. And that man is so loved years after his passing. Years after his passing. So loved. And so rightly so, because he shows us how simple and how beautiful it is to love and to be love and to offer love and to celebrate it. And so I'm so delighted to talk with 2 people who love him so, because I do as well. I'm so grateful that I went in that bookstore and found that book. Yeah.
Love.
The greatest of these is love. And he knew that. Yeah.
The message of love transcends all time.
Yeah.
It might have been like, I love how you talked about it. It could have been 2,000 years ago that he wrote these books, or it could be 100 years ago, or 100 years from now. But it just, they'll always be here.
And I think that's what's so brilliant about him, that he does transcend, that his writing isn't so intellectual or so time stamped that it only fits for 2024. It is something deeply within all of our hearts and souls that we want. And I think the most glorious part of being human is that we can love. And so then it becomes, well, do you? And where do you? And how do you? And why would you not want to?
Have you ever run into anybody else who shared a connection with Dr. Leo?
Gosh, I'd love to be able to say tons. No. And that to me, that's kind of surprising because it is such an important work. I know people who have read him. And when I put the post on Facebook, several people said things like, oh, well, of course, if it came from him, it would, because he's, the king of love. But people in my own circle know. I have brought his book to many, but people haven't known of him before.
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
Teacher Lauren Johnson returned all the graded essays but one. He believed that one student was capable of more.
I don't believe taking the middle of the road is your philosophy. This time, write something you really believe.
The student wrote a new one about excellence. Instead of just grading an essay, Mr. Johnson changed a life. I am that student. I became a writer, and I wrote this to thank him.
Thank a teacher and pass it on from passidon.com.
Start your morning right with premium coffee roasts available at ZuzuNetwork.com and drink them in your Zuzu All Grown Up coffee mug. Also perfect for tea and hot chocolate.
Stay inspired throughout the day with the same gratitude journal used by Karolyn and Chris, and check out t-shirts, hats, books, Christmas keepsakes, and more at ZuzuNetwork.com/shop.
Are you wondering whether to sell or donate the car you no longer need or want? Consider that. Donating it to a legitimate, legally recognized nonprofit organization, not only will you receive a tax deduction, but you'll be contributing to a worthy cause. Finding a worthy nonprofit organization can be time-consuming and even a bit stressful. I'm here to present to you one of the most amazing, legitimate 501c3 nonprofit organizations in the world. The United Breast Cancer Foundation. The UBCF provides screenings, treatments, aftercare services, educational materials, as well as patient and family assistance. We ask that you help in that mission by donating your unwanted or unused vehicle to the UBCF. Simply call 888-842-5505. The process is fast and easy. Call 888-842-5505. 888-842-5505. Help us in our mission and get a tax deduction. Call 888-842-5505. Thank you for your support.
Imagine having all the money you need for retirement, all the income, every month, guaranteed. That's Secure Future Investor. Secure Future utilizes an indexed annuity tied to growth in the U.S. stock market, but without any risk of loss ever. That's right. No matter what happens in the market, your investment can never decline. Down years, you're insured against any losses. Boom years, your retirement account grows exponentially to increase your worth. Whether the market is up or down, Secure Future Investor can set you up with guaranteed money-for-life income. It's the difference between thinking you have enough money to retire and knowing you're getting that retirement check every single month for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. Over 40 years old? Call now. 888-288-7088. 888-288-7088. Sponsored by GP Agency, Inc., Raleigh, North Carolina. Licensed in all states. Performance may vary. Consult with your financial professional before making an investment decision.
Join Zuzu's network today at ZuzuNetwork.com/join.
Karolyn is creating an international network of aspiring angels, everyday people who believe that they can help make the world a better place by making life better for even just one other person.
Let us know you want to earn your wings at ZuzuNetwork.com/join, and Karolyn and Chris will send you inspirational material to support you in your journey.
We're back with more Zuzu All Grown Up.
I think if I had been a therapist, 40 years ago, that would have been very different. I think part of it is the time that has gone on from him not being here to give his lectures and to give his classes. I think people don't know him as much, but I think as soon as they listen to him, they're going to be connected with him. I feel a lot of people have forgotten him. And so to me, this part of the reason when I heard of the tribute, I thought, oh yes, let's turn that fire up a little bit more and remind people of how phenomenal he is. And I think that happens often with people, that they become famous or remembered later on because we get busy with our life and all the new things and we get all caught up with that. But that doesn't mean that that wasn't really sometimes the best. You go back and look at some of the masters of paintings and you can say, oh, what's going on now is wonderful. But you go, oh, but do you remember? Do you remember? Same thing with music. I think he taps into the spiritual level so beautifully and that alignment so beautifully that when you hear it, it just resonates with your soul. And you know, this is of no time. So let me make it of this time once again. Yeah.
I assume that you have certainly incorporated his thoughts and his teachings in your profession when you're dealing with people.
Absolutely.
Any specific time you can remember that might have happened?
Every single session.
Oh.
Every single session, because my viewpoint is you're here right now in this time with me. How can I serve you? What is it that you need? How can I be present and with you? And how can I care for your situation and where you are? His eye contact was very direct. He listened keenly. And so I look at those skills, I look at those gifts to another. And it's part of what I use in my practice. People feel seen. People feel heard. People feel safe. People feel loved, I think most times. And that comes from that desire to be very present with another. The other person was the most important person, and the communication was the most important communication when he was engaging with someone. You can see that in his lectures. And I admire that so deeply. So I try that in my practice. Let me stay really present. There was a time recently, Leo probably sent this to me. There was a time recently where I reached out to my daughter. My kids are glorious. And I said to my daughter, I have not been receiving your love as deeply as I can. And she said, oh, wow, Mom, was there something that led you to be aware of this? I'm like, no, I'm just aware that I can receive love more deeply. And I know I can also give love more deeply. And she said, will I know when it happens? And I said, oh, yes, yes. So what happens is we come together and I look and I open and I connect. And she goes, that's Leo. That's all Leo. He was in awe of people. He was madly in love with everybody. But he's shown me that. To me, he is the essence of love. He is. And so I want so much to give that to others because it feels so good. To me, to them, it's so honoring. It's so reverent. And then the person can say, oh, Heather, I got to tell you, I'm screwing up in something. And I'm like, okay, well, let's fix it. And then it's okay to talk about our shortcomings. It's okay to talk about our struggles because they see that I really do care and I want the best for them. And that to me is Leo. Yeah.
Well, he certainly imparted quite a great gift to you.
Yes. Yes.
You don't take it for granted and you embraced it and you're running with the ball. I think that's pretty wonderful.
I'm really honored that he touched me so deeply. I'm really honored that he's impacted my heart and changed my heart. Yeah, I journey sometimes. I'm in my meditations and Mother Mary comes to me to a lot. And there was one time where she came to me and her arms were around me and then they felt like angel wings and then they felt like dove wings. And she opened them up and she looked at me and she had a book in her heart. And she said, I am opening up my book and I am writing your name in my heart. And I remember thinking, oh, is this the book of God? I didn't know what it was. And she took a feather pen and she wrote my name in her heart. And then she closed it and she embraced me. I just started sobbing. And I thought, I am written in Mother Mary's heart. And of course I am. We're written in God's heart. But I feel that way with Leo. Like he wrote all of our little names in his heart because we were so important with him. And I think he carried us in his heart wherever he went and wanted the best for us and thought about us. He was so free to let people go because his viewpoint was don't cling to them. If someone doesn't want to be there, let them go wherever they want to go. Hold on to what you had. Don't cling to what doesn't want to be there. But that's because he let himself be so full in the moment of receiving that when it wasn't there, it was like, okay, let's go meet somebody else. Let's go find a different leaf if this tree no longer wants to give me leaves. And I think that's so beautiful that I don't need to cling. I don't need to hold. I just need to offer. I just need to share and experience. So there's such a freedom in that, which takes away where so many of us go, that love is scarce. I'm not going to get it. Oh, please don't leave me. We turned it into a desperation, but that's not then love. And to me, he had a beautiful way of softening that. Of course, you don't want them to go, but if they need to go, they need to go. And then there's somebody else who's going to embrace you and want to love you that you get to share time with. So he was unbelievably ahead of his time for looking at the truth of relationships. Unbelievably. And didn't guilt people or force people. He celebrated who they were and what they needed. And I think that's glorious. Because that's love.
That is love.
Truly unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Today's world, there's a lot of strings attached to love.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Very commodity based, very
Conditional.
short term. I remember at one point I had a fear, an irrational fear that my kids might leave me. And I know where it comes from. It comes from my mom killing herself, comes from my dad disowning me at 18, comes from my husband dying. And I said to my daughter, because I was speaking with her, like, I know I'm not supposed to have this fear, but I have this fear. And she said, Mom, I've never lived my life without you. And I went, oh. And she said, no, Mom, I've just simply never lived without you. And so I took it to God and I said, like, I don't know what to do with this, God. I know it's irrational. And God came back, sounded like the voice of Leo, and said, how about you just be the best mom you can be today? And I went, right. So I went to Sienna and I said, I figured it out. God and I figured this out. And she said, what? And I said, you're going to want me in your life always. And she's like, right. But how'd you figure that out? And I said, I'm just going to be the best mom I can be to you every single day. And she said, aren't I lucky? And I went, but think about it. If I'm the best friend, the best mom, the best partner to you, if I truly care about you, why would you leave? As long as I'm attending to what it is that you desire and what you need, and we're finding ways to work together. And if we find we're not able to anymore, then I'm not really loving you. I'm loving this part of me that you're not a part of anymore. And that's okay. So he shows us to not cling to the person, but to cultivate love. And we don't often do that. We cling to the person. You have to stay. You can't go. Instead of, gosh, I'm not really loving you very well, am I right now? Not really loving me very well right now, am I? I'm making you the focal point. And he said, no, that's not. That's not. Love is the focal point. And is that something you're really experiencing and sharing and giving? And so that's something that I really strive to try to live and be. And I think he did it so beautifully, so beautifully.
Mm. He had a lot of support because he gave love and it came right back to him.
Yeah.
And that when you have love surrounding you, it gives you self-confidence. It makes you feel good about yourself. There's so many things. And he gave all these gifts to you. That's a remarkable gift.
Yes. Well, and that's why his books, but to me, especially Love, since that was the first that I read, why it's just one of those classics that I think every human being would be better in the reading of. I do.
There's so many people that have never been shown how to love or to feel love. They're so closed in or closed off, and so that can seem so foreign. It's just a word. It's a concept that a lot of people cannot connect with. And I know there's many people that instantly can jump onto the bandwagon and go, yeah, I can feel it. I know what this is about. But there's I guess I'm thinking of some very desperate people.
How beautiful that your heart goes there, Chris. It says a lot of who you are as a person, who you are as a psychologist. I mean, that's really lovely. That's really lovely. What comes to me in that, and I've worked with many people who are suicidal and very uncertain if they are going to stay or not. And the place to oftentimes go to is, where is there a place that has been pleasurable, or where is there a place where there is beauty? I remember there was a period of time, freshman year of college, where I knew I wouldn't kill myself because of what my mom had done, but it was really hard being disowned. It was right after Susan, poor sweet Susan, and I knew I needed to get help. And I went to the psychiatrist and he said, what is something that used to give you pleasure? And I said, dancing. He said, well, then you're going to dance. And I said, it's not going to do any good. He said, I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you would dance. I thought, what do I have to lose? Nothing else is working for me. All I want to do is sleep or die. And so he said, an hour a day. I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, do you promise? I'm like, yes. So I went the first day, it was stupid. I went the second day, I was angry. The third day I took music, so it was a little bit less bad. The fourth day I really started to make my body move, which that felt good. The fifth day I got a whole bunch out. And I went back to him and he said, did you do the homework? And I said, yes, I did. And he said, great. And he started to move on to another topic. And I said, wait a second. Aren't you going to ask how I felt about it? And I wanted him to want to know. And he said, no. I'm like, why? Because it was for you. It wasn't important for me. He said, I'm glad you had an experience, but there's a more important message. I'm like, okay, doc, because I'm clueless. And he said, you were deeply depressed and said that there was nothing that you could do that could change that. You proved it to yourself because you made yourself do something that you did not want, and that changed your experience. And my brain went, oh, wow.
We'll join Karolyn and Chris in just a moment with more of Zuzu All Grown Up.
First, an important message.
To find out more about the organization featured in today's episode or a previous episode, and to learn more about how you can help, go to zuzunetwork.com/beanangel.
All right, son. Time to put out this campfire.
Dad, we learned about this in school.
Oh, did you now? Okay. What's first?
Smokey Bear said to.
First drown it with a bucket of water, then stir it with a shovel.
Wow, you sound just like him.
Then he said.
If it's still warm, then do it again.
Where can I learn all this?
It's all on SmokeyBear.com with other wildfire prevention tips, because only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
This is an important announcement for anyone who wants health insurance, even if you missed the deadline. That's right. Don't worry if you missed the deadline for open enrollment. Right now, you can get the health insurance you and your family need from top insurance providers, even if you have pre-existing conditions or no insurance at all. The Plus Benefits Health Insurance toll-free number has been extended to help anyone who wants health insurance coverage now, or anyone who just needs a better plan or a lower price. Did you miss the penalty deadline, have a baby, get married, or get dropped from your plan? Don't worry, plans are available now, and in just minutes, we will help you find the right plan that's best for you and your budget. Call Plus Benefits Health Insurance now at 800-332-1993. The call is 100% free and the help is real. You can finally get health insurance that's right for you. But hurry and get covered before it's too late. Call 800-332-1993 now to find the best plan at the lowest price. Call 800-332-1993. That's 800-332-1993. 800-332-1993.
Zuzu's book club features recommendations from Zuzu herself on books she loves and thinks you will love also. All of the books that the club reads, fiction and nonfiction, are inspirational and uplifting. Folks, this is a life-enhancing club to be part of. You can sign up for free at zuzunetwork.com/book club. That's zuzunetwork.com/book club. This episode's book club selection is Speaking with the Heart, Transforming Your Relationship and Communication with Compassion and Connection by Dr. Heather Browne, available on Kindle and paperback. Today's guest, Dr. Heather Browne, says, everyone wants to feel loved, wanted, and appreciated in our relationships. Yet we continually feel hurt or misunderstood instead. Dr. Browne has developed a powerful approach that transforms relationships. In her book, Speaking with the Heart, she'll explain how communication is a love letter and how the best communication starts before a word is uttered. We invite you to join along with other book club members and check it out and maybe change your life.
This is Zuzu, all grown up.
So something that I work with people who are hurting deeply is if we can bring something in that changes something for them. What I also say is, I'm not going to ask you, what do you want to do? Because there will be nothing. I am going to ask you, what is best for you to do? Is it best for you to take a shower? Is it best for you to drink some water? You can't ask someone who's deeply depressed, do you want to get up? No. But what is best? But what the psychiatrist showed me is that if you give yourself an action, if you give yourself a purpose, you find yourself a little bit within that. And to me, that's something that Leo knew. If you give yourself a purpose of, I will share love, you will then eventually feel love. It's not going to be from everybody. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that reject you. I don't want to hug. I don't want to be a lover of you, what have you. But there will be people on TikTok and YouTube. You see people that hold up signs and say free hugs. And it's amazing how many people want them. Now, if you hold up a sign that says, I want a hug, not many.
Oh.
It's a sad reality of human nature. We want to receive more than we want to give. But when you know that, as Leo did, then you find ways to work with that. So what did he do? He gave and gave and gave, and he received. He didn't make it, when I receive, then I will give. And that's the difference. And most of us, I think, are waiting to feel loved to then love another, which really isn't love, because then it's conditionalized. And so there's a huge truth of humanness that I want for me more than I want for you. And I think Leo found a way to break through that, where he just wanted for everybody because he knew he was part of everybody. He didn't separate himself from another. He included himself in another. So if he was lonely, he figured somebody else was lonely and they'd want a hug. And so he broke out of that belief that we are not completely connected. And then therefore he could let himself be human, because we all make mistakes and we all screw up and we're all scared and we're all lonely. And so it was okay to own it and say, well, I'm not right now. Could I help you with that? Or I am right now. Could you help me with this? He opened up the ability to let it be okay to ask. And we live in a world where it's not okay to ask, which is so silly because we're here. Why are we not to ask if there's something that we would love or need or want? Why are we not to offer? I remember there was one time I didn't want to go to church at all. It just didn't feel like going. I was going to watch online, and I kept knowing I was supposed to go. And I went, and the service was bad. The music was bad. I'm walking out, probably because I'm in such a negative mind state. And there's this person I've never seen before who's crying. Well, I'm supposed to pray for her. So I sit down and I said, would you like me to pray? And she's like, yes. 45 minutes I'm with this woman, sharing her whole life story falling apart. And at the end, she said, you are the reason I came to church. And I said, you are the reason I came to church. It's a beautiful truth. And Leo knew it. We are here for everyone. And everyone is here for us. And when we recognize everyone has something for us to learn, then we stopped acting like we have all the knowledge. And we say, what could I learn from you? What could I experience from you? You've had a lifetime I haven't quite had. Please let me sit by your fire and share your stories with me. I went to China with my daughter, and we're both 6 feet tall. We're in thousands of videos, thousands of photos. And the next to the last day, the tour guide said to me, do you know what they're going to do with all those photos and those videos? I said, no clue. She said, they're going to go back to their villages and say, these are our new American friends. And my heart broke. I started crying. My daughter looks at me and she's like, Mom, what's up? And I'm like, oh, I'm seeing a really ugly part of me. And she said, what? And I said, they don't matter to me. I'm not taking home anyone's photo. I'm not taking home anyone's video. I'm not going to go home and share any of them with anybody. I have not allowed Jesus out of my skin. I have not shared my love freely. And it hurt. I thought, oh my gosh, Heather, you're in a communist country and the people are loving you more than you're really loving them. Spent some time with God. Said, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for helping me see this like cancer within the way I live and love. And so I said to my daughter the next day, do you want to just go out into the villages and just love on people? She said, yeah. So we spent 2 hours with this one gentleman who could not speak a word of English, but it was glorious. And I thought, thank you, God. Thank you. I'm not as good at it as Leo by any means, but I want to learn how to be better at it. And so when I get one of these messages where it's so glaring to me that I am so not loving, I try really hard to take it in, not shame myself too badly, and really say, okay, grow, woman, grow. Growing pains hurt. They hurt, but they take us to a more expanded part of our human being. And so that moment hurt. Leo would have celebrated all of them. So to this day, he's still teaching me.
Oh,
To this day.
Nice.
Yeah.
As far as that relationship, the lessons that you learn there, your daughter saw one thing. She was looking at you going, what's going on? But for some reason, there was a light that went on inside of you. It's like, oh my gosh, it's not reciprocating. I'm not seeing it from their perspective. And where's the compassion? Where's the love? what a beautiful lesson to learn. Even though, like you say, it can sting at first, but that's how we grow. That's how we build our character. I think that in your message and what you share with us is as though you're channeling Leo. Your storytelling, the messages that you have are in alignment with Leo, and he would be very proud. I'm sure he is.
That means so much. He has touched me so deeply. And that's why when I heard about this, I thought, oh, could I please share how important he is to me? Because if you say it to somebody else, they're going to be like, wow, like you're kind of obsessed. But when you're a Leo lover, you get it. It's like, oh, I mean, it's a spiritual connection. Absolutely.
What would you say to him if you had the opportunity to talk to him today?
And I would just look into his eyes and we would know each other. I know him and I know he knows me. And then if he gave me a lot of time, I'd ask a bazillion questions, but it would really be in the meeting him. There's a beautiful song that says, you know, when I meet Jesus, will I fall down? Will I dance? You know, what will I do when I meet Jesus face to face? And I think I will just gaze. And when the time comes that I get to see him in whatever spiritual way I get to see him, I'm just going to gaze and I'm just going to say, thank you for helping me be so much better of a human being. Oh, that's what I would say. Thank you for helping me be so much better of a human being and to open up my heart in a way that I wasn't shown. I didn't know. And thank you for hugging me through all of it. He was hugging on me in China when I was looking at how cold I was. He was behind me in the market when I was cold. And what's so beautiful is there's no shame there. There's no blame there. He's just saying, I know. Soften up, baby. Soften up. Like, where's the leaf you're giving? Just a glorious soul. Just a glorious soul. What would you guys say?
Just being in his presence, I think, would be, and being able to hug him and embrace him, kind of, it's like full circle, bringing them together.
I wanted to leave time to mention your book.
Well,
I want you to tell them about your book, where they can get it, and your website.
Oh, thank you. So, Speaking with the Heart, and it's at Barnes & Noble. It's at Amazon, Dr. Heather Browne. Also on my website, www.drheatherbrowne.com, Dr. Heather Browne with an E. I'd be honored for anybody who's a Leo lover, anybody who's not a Leo lover. I'd love to have the opportunity to connect with you. Lots of freebies and TEDx and blogs and information on my website. So I'd be honored if anybody wants to take a peek. And certainly anybody who wants to feel Leo's love in their relationship, I think my book is a beautiful, beautiful experience to allow that to happen. One of the first things I do is have you write a love letter to yourself and to your partner. And that's very much in the energy of who Leo is. So I'd love to hear back from people of what they think and what they feel and how it blesses them.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Heather Browne. Appreciate it.
Absolute joy.
Okay.
What an honor. Thank you.
I've actually learned some things today. So this is good.
Oh, I'm so glad. I have too. Isn't that always the best?
Really nice. Thank you for joining us and keep doing your wonderful work and give love to everybody you run into.
And you as well. Thank you for giving so much to me today.
Thank you, Dr. Heather Browne. That was an amazing interview. There were so many takeaways. We'll be back in a moment with one that I think is particularly key. Don't go away.
Do you know someone who is earning their wings? Someone practicing kindness and service to others? Perhaps an organization or initiative helping make the world we live in a kinder, sweeter place.
Or maybe you've witnessed the miraculous, the divine, the magnificent in some way in your life and you'd like to share it with others. Go to zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory and let us know more.
You may end up being featured on an upcoming episode of Zuzu All Grown Up. That's zuzunetwork.com/tellmystory. Now here's Seth Kennedy with today's parting thoughts.
If you ask someone, what do you speak with? They will say the tongue, or they might say the larynx, or simply the voice box. Well, that's true, but as today's guest has communicated, we can all speak with the heart. And if we do, then we'll have elevated speech to something sublime. Don't waste your words. Use your speech to communicate what is in and on your heart with the people who matter most to you. Words from the heart enter the heart. Use your words to share your heart and reach someone else's today. That's my takeaway. I'm Seth Kennedy.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Zuzu All Grown Up.
We hope you've been inspired to live your most wonderful life now and to help those around you do the same.
Remember, no matter what you're going through, no matter who you are, there are people who care about you and your life makes a difference.
It is a wonderful life.
Check out zuzunetwork.com for more on today's and other episodes, including transcripts and merchandise you won't want to be without.
New episodes are coming soon.
For transcripts of today's broadcast, go to zuzunetwork.com/transcripts. Zuzu All Grown Up with your hosts Karolyn Grimes and Dr. Chris Brunell.
Announcer and guide Seth Kennedy.
Executive producer Kevin R. Stillmock.
Coordinating producer Holly Ann Way.
Technical producer Stella Joelle.
A Wonderful Land production.
In collaboration with Radio Wonderful.